Remember when Norm roared from the doorway, Cliff launched little-known facts, and Sam Malone slid a beer like he owned the place? Behind them hid casting disasters, ratings catastrophe, and a secret hairpiece. Today, we're counting down 15 weird facts you never knew about Cheers. Number 15. That easy confidence Sam Malone carries behind the bar, the loose grin, the ex-athlete swagger. Feels like it could only belong to one man. But for a long stretch of development, that man was not Ted Danson. Sam was originally conceived as a former New England Patriots football player. Former NY Giants and LA Rams defensive end Fred Dryer was the creator's frontrunner, and he screen tested for the role. 3 pairings were evaluated side by side. Dryer with Julia Duffy, Danson with Shelley Long, and William Devane with Lisa Eichhorn. NBC executives ultimately chose Danson based on his chemistry with Long. The problem was obvious the moment they did. Per Glenn Charles, in GQ's 2012 oral history, Danson clearly was not a football player. The writers solved it by pivoting sports entirely, rewriting Sam as a Boston Red Sox relief pitcher modeled on the eccentric Bill Spaceman Lee. Ken Levine later wrote on his blog that the swap was necessary because Ted as a football bruiser is only slightly more believable than me as an NFL lineman. That rewrite produced the cocky but fragile pitcher persona that made Sam Malone work. A defensive lineman would have killed the Tracy and Hepburn dynamic the show was built on. Every Mayday Malone reference from here on out is a scar from a casting pivot, not organic backstory. That rewrite also forced producers to find a real Boston bar, and they found one for almost nothing. Number 14. That opening pan down the brownstone steps to the bar's street sign is one of the most recognizable establishing shots in television history. Here's the thing, the building is real. The set inside is not, and the deal that made it possible cost exactly $1. The exterior is the Bull and Finch pub at 84 Beacon Street, opened in 1969 by owner Tom Kershaw. The creators reportedly found it in the Yellow Pages, sent a set designer to photograph it, and Glenn Charles negotiated exterior rights with Kershaw for $1. Kershaw later told reporters, "I don't know why I ever did it, but I did." The interior of the real pub looks nothing like the television bar. The actual bar runs along the back wall, and the space is a fraction of the size. Oscar-winning production designer Richard Silbert, whose credits include Chinatown and Dick Tracy, built the television bar on Stage 25 at Paramount in Hollywood, borrowing only the Tiffany lamps and stained glass aesthetic. Everything else was construction. Silbert's deep dolly layout, championed by director James Burrows, was the reason cameras could shoot all the way down the back hallway. That geometry is why the pilot and the finale could bookend with Sam walking out of that same corridor. The intimacy was engineered, not inherited. That same exterior also plays over a theme song that nearly never existed in the form audiences know. Number 13. Making your way in the world today takes everything you've got. It feels inevitable, like the song always existed somewhere and just needed to be found. It did not. It was the 4th attempt, salvaged from a dead musical, and the most recognizable line almost mentioned the Boston Red Sox instead. Composer Gary Portnoy and lyricist Judy Hart Angelo originally submitted a song called People Like Us, pulled from their unproduced musical preppies. The Charles brothers loved it, but could not license it, and asked the duo to try again. Portnoy's own archive confirms 3 rejected drafts: My Kind of People, Another Day, and one additional title, before Where Everybody Knows Your Name was accepted. The song was recorded on August 13, 1982 at Paramount with 4 musicians. Portnoy layered 6 vocal tracks himself because producers could not afford a larger chorus. The Charles brothers skipped the recording session entirely. The original opening verse name-checked the Red Sox, but Glenn and Les Charles asked Portnoy to broaden it for national audiences. That request is the reason the final lyric is about loneliness rather than baseball. A song about the Red Sox stays in Boston. A song about belonging plays everywhere. That warmth-inducing theme is a rescue rewrite salvaged from a dead college musical. Not bad for something that took 4 tries. The bartender who first sang along to it nearly didn't include the farm boy behind the bar. Number 12. Woody Boyd showing up behind the bar in Season 4 seemed like a natural fit almost immediately. Wide-eyed, warm, completely unguarded. The audition that put him there was one of the stranger stories in television casting history. Coach replacement auditions auditions had narrowed to a small group, reportedly including Dave Coulier in the final round, when Harrelson walked in largely as an afterthought. Producer Peter Casey told The Hollywood Reporter that Harrelson arrived wearing basketball shorts, a t-shirt, and unlaced high tops. Harrelson was planning to fly back to New York to understudy Neil Simon's Biloxi Blues and felt entirely carefree about the whole thing. Entering the writer's room, he paused to blow his nose. The room laughed before he spoke a single line. Director James Burrows told him afterward, "You had the part right then." During the actual reading, Harrelson teared up when told Coach had died. Casey recalled, "You're sitting there going, this is a comedy audition." But then he does that and it's like, whoa, he can really act. Ted Danson personally advocated for Harrelson. Glenn Charles said Harrelson brought an element of danger the show had lost. That one emotional beat told producers Woody could carry Coach's exposition via Innocence Function without being a copy. Woody's dopey sweetness is a tonal survival strategy disguised as a character, chosen because one unrehearsed emotion convinced a room full of seasoned writers. That survival instinct mattered more than anyone knew, because Season 1 had nearly ended everything. Number 11. Every classic sitcom list places Cheers near the top. It is shorthand for quality television. And in its first season, it was the least watched show on American network television. In 1982 to 1983, Cheers ranked 74th out of 96 Nielsen-rated shows. The pilot, Give Me a Ring Sometime, finished 77th for its premiere week. NBC and Paramount asked the production team to switch to videotape to cut costs. Burrows refused after a disastrous tape test and insisted on staying on film. That decision preserved the cinematic texture Burrows believed gave the show its visual authority. NBC president Brandon Tartikoff renewed the show anyway. Per Ken Levine's blog, Tartikoff told the writers not to change anything because the ratings were low, and to stay the course. Tartikoff's memoir, The Last Great Ride, describes a home answering machine message he played for skeptical executives. "I don't care what the papers say. Cheers is the best show on TV." That protection eventually led to Cheers being paired with Family Ties and The Cosby Show, directly producing NBC's must-see TV strategy. Without Tartikoff, there is no Norm, no Frasier spinoff, and no 80 million viewer finale. The early polished episodes that feel effortless are the work of a condemned show performing like a hit, sustained entirely by one executive's personal conviction. The actress Tartikoff was protecting, didn't even want to audition. Number 10. Diane Chambers arriving at that bar feeling overdressed for the room is one of the great comedy entrances in sitcom history. The actress behind it almost never walked through the door. Per the Season 1 DVD commentary, Shelley Long had to be coaxed into reading for the role. She wanted it offered outright without an audition. Once she read, Glenn Charles said, "That was it. We knew that we wanted her." Getting there reshaped the character entirely. Diane was originally conceived as an executive businesswoman, a Katharine Hepburn corporate analog. Once Long was cast, the character was rewritten as a pretentious graduate student waitress to fit her specific comic register. The class war dynamic between Sam and Diane, the entire engine of the first 5 seasons, was built around one actress's particularity. Finalists had included Lisa Eichhorn, Julia Duffy, and Wendy Malick. Bess Armstrong reportedly turned down an offer. Long had actually seen the Bull and Finch pub while shooting A Small Circle of Friends in Boston in 1980, 2 years before the show existed. Writer David Isaacs told The Hollywood Reporter, "Pound for pound, I think she's one of the best comic actresses I've been around." When Long eventually left, the producers reverted toward the original businesswoman concept for Rebecca Howe. Diane's pretension is not a character quirk. It is a tailored suit built around one actress who almost never walked through the door. The man at the end of the bar was not originally a character at all. Number 9. Cliff Clavin and his bar stool feel inseparable. The little-known facts, the postal worker uniform, the absolute certainty about everything. And yet, none of it was in the script. Cliff was created on the spot in a doorway by an actor who had just lost a different role. Ratzenberger auditioned for the minor walk-on character, George, a one-line role requiring only the word beer. He lost that part to George Wendt. Walking out, he saw his headshot moving toward a wastebasket and turned back around. On the Where Everybody Knows Your Name podcast in January 2025, Ratzenberger recalled, "I said, 'Do you have a bar know-it-all? Every bar that I've ever been in has some horse's ass who pretends to know everything, but everybody defers to that person.' He modeled the improvised pitch on Sarge, a regular at his father's bar in Bridgeport, Connecticut. The concept was genuine. The timing was everything. Cliff was initially written as a security guard. The writers changed him to a postman 2 days before the pilot so he could plausibly claim expertise on any subject at any time. That 2-day rewrite is the reason Cliff Clavin has always had an answer. The most quoted barstool know-it-all in television history is a character pitched in a doorway by an actor who refused to accept rejection. Another man on that same set was also refusing to leave, while his heart was failing him. Number 8. Coach squinting at a phone message, getting everything slightly wrong, radiating gentle confusion. It is one of the warmest recurring bits in the series. Behind it was a production quietly adapting to a man who was dying. Nick Colasanto had been diagnosed with heart disease in the 1970s. By season 3, the illness, combined with residual damage from decades of alcoholism he had beaten in 1976, was visibly affecting his memory and stamina. James Burrows told Yahoo in 2015, "Nick had trouble remembering lines. I'm sure it had a lot to do with the blood getting to the head." Ken Levine's blog describes lines being hidden everywhere on the set, taped to bottles, the bar surface, and pieces of scenery, while writers simultaneously simplified Colasanto's dialogue to reduce the load. Colasanto spent days in the hospital with pleurisy after Christmas 1984 and insisted on returning. His final filmed episode was Cheerio Cheers in late November 1984. He died February 12, 1985. The production adapted around him continuously because, as Levine wrote, the staff had an inkling something was wrong from the beginning of that season. Coach's confused pauses in late season 3 were not entirely comic timing. They were real. And when Colasanto died, the cast took one item from his dressing room and placed it where 40 million people would see it every week. All right, we're at the halfway mark and things are about to get wilder. Before we hit the top 7, I want to hear from you. What's your favorite Cheers quote or moment? Drop it in the comments. And if you're enjoying this, smash that like button and subscribe. It really does help the channel grow. Number 7, look closely at the wall behind the bar near the piano. There is a small framed picture that most viewers never registered over 11 seasons. Most viewers assumed it was standard prop decor. It is one of the most quietly emotional things in the entire series. Colasanto kept a black and white photo of Apache leader Geronimo kneeling with a rifle in his dressing room cubby as a personal good luck charm. After his death, Ted Danson has said the cast went to his dressing room and removed the photo so it could become a permanent fixture on the bar set, so it would always be there. The photo remained on set from season 4 through the series finale. At Bryant College, a memorial lounge holds Colasanto's Cheers apron signed by the entire cast. In memory of our dear Nicky, we miss you, pal. Woody Harrelson, arriving as a replacement the season after Colasanto's death, inherited a set still organized around his memory and never objected to the tribute staying. Think about that. Every wide bar shot after season 3 contains a quiet act of grief hiding in the background. Every episode of Cheers from season 4 onward has a ghost in it, and almost no one watching ever knew. The show's emotional core was quite literally pinned to its wall. Grief also shaped how the show's next major cast addition chose to enter the room. Number 6. Rebecca Howe, striding into Cheers in a power suit, is one of the most confident character introductions in the show's run. Behind it was one of the most anxious casting searches the production ever ran. Shelley Long's exit terrified everyone. Casting director Jeff Greenberg pushed for Kirstie Alley, whom he had seen in Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, over finalists including Sharon Stone, Kim Cattrall, and Marg Helgenberger. All auditions were held on Saturdays, on an empty stage, so Long would not find out the search was underway. NBC initially rejected Alley as not a comic actress. Greenberg told The Hollywood Reporter, the network relented only because of how passionate the production team was. Carl Reiner vouched for her based on her performance in Summer School. At the first table read, Alley walked in wearing a blonde wig and a Diane-style sweater, directly impersonating Long to break the room's tension. Burrows told Variety, "She was the world's greatest crier. She could funny cry and make it real." Rebecca was rewritten mid-season from Dragon Lady Boss to Neurotic Loser once producers saw Alley's vulnerability on camera. The show reached its ratings peak at number 1 during season 9. Rebecca's nervous overconfidence was constructed in real time around an actress who arrived as someone else. That wig joke reset the room's politics in about 90 seconds. The next cast member was also in the middle of a personal collapse while delivering some of the show's best performances. Number 5. Frasier Crane's measured pomposity, the perfectly calibrated condescension, the vocabulary deployed like a weapon, It is one of the great recurring character performances in American sitcom history. It was also delivered by an actor whose life off-camera was in genuine freefall. Frasier debuted in the Season 3 premiere on September 27, 1984, as a short story arc. John Lithgow reportedly turned the role down first, dismissing it casually. Mandy Patinkin, Grammer's Juilliard classmate, recommended him as a replacement. Burroughs told Deadline in 2023 it was a 4-episode arc. But at the end of the first one, we said, this guy is too funny and he fits a niche on the show. During the Cheers run, Grammer faced a 1988 DUI and cocaine conviction, a 1990 possession charge, and a 1991 probation extension. He reportedly wore an electronic ankle monitor to the set during part of this period. Cheers writer Dan O'Shannon, cited in Grammer's authorized biography, said he would ooze into the studio, his life all out of sorts. Grammer has linked the addiction to the 1975 murder of his sister Karen, writing in his 2025 memoir, "It was my way of burying myself along with Karen." Frasier's controlled pomposity is the steadiest thing about an actor whose private life was anything but. He was not the only cast member quietly falling apart. The leading actress was negotiating a secret exit. Number 4. Sam and Diane's broken engagement in I Do Adieu on May 7, 1987 is one of the most emotionally precise season finales in sitcom history. It feels inevitable, like a story finding its natural conclusion. What the audience watched was the third option out of 3, and the studio audience never saw it at all. Long informed producers around December 15, 1986, that she would not renew. Danson had just re-signed. The writers had weeks to build a goodbye they could not acknowledge publicly. According to the GQ oral history, 3 alternate endings were filmed: a Sam and Diane wedding, a baby scenario, and the aired version where Diane leaves to write a novel. Only the wedding version was performed in front of the live studio audience as a deliberate decoy, so the real ending would not leak. Long-stated reasons to GQ people and Phil Donahue in 1987 included repetition fatigue, film offers, and her 2-year-old daughter at home. Director Thomas LaFaro told GQ, Shelley believed that she was the new Lucille Ball. She would spend hours after the run-through talking with the writers. Danson told GQ he was scared. Could I be any good? Would people want to watch one half of the relationship? Every warmth in I Do Adieu is a farewell the studio audience was specifically prevented from witnessing. The show's other best-kept secret was physically attached to Ted Danson's head for 11 years. Number 3. Sam Malone's thick, jock-perfect hair is as much a part of the character as the bar rag or the easy grin. It also was not real for most of the run, and the secret broke in front of a live television audience. Danson wore what he later described as a little divot hairpiece throughout most of Cheers. The secret broke publicly at the 42nd Primetime Emmys on September 16, 1990, when he won lead actor in a comedy series and appeared on camera without it. The Los Angeles Daily News covered the story. Co-producer Mert Rich told the paper, "He came up to me because I am without hair, and he said, 'See, I've joined you.'" Danson told the Deseret News in 2006 that he had started with a comb-over and a brown color stick before graduating to the hairpiece roughly 5 years into the run. The character eventually addressed it on screen in the season 11 episode It's Lonely on the Top in May 1993, when Sam tells Carla he is going bald. Danson admitted on the Smartless podcast that inhabiting Sam took 18 months because I, Ted Danson, did not have that arrogance. I was nervous, scared, excited, grateful about my new job. Sam Malone's unshakable physical vanity, the engine of the character, was literally pinned on every single episode. That same cast held it together for 11 years and then completely fell apart on live television the night it ended. Number 2. Sam Malone in the bar, straightening a picture, saying, "We're closed." It is one of the cleanest, most emotionally satisfying endings in American sitcom history. What happened 90 minutes later on the same network is a different story entirely. After the 98-minute finale aired on May 20th, 1993, NBC broadcast The Tonight Show with Jay Leno live from the Bull and Finch in Boston. The cast had been drinking in the real pub since early afternoon. Ken Levine's blog describes the scene. Everyone was hugging and crying and doing a lot of drinking. We were all completely wrecked. And at the very height of that, a rep from The Tonight Show popped her head in and said, "Okay, we're ready," Leno told the Boston Herald on May 27, 1993. "Those people were so drunk, I don't know what else we could have done." People were like vomiting. Rhea Perlman was reportedly the only sober cast member. Woody Harrelson's on-air comments were explicit enough to cause immediate controversy. Kirstie Alley's remote segment was reportedly similarly explicit. Danson sent Leno flowers the following day. Harrelson, on the 2024 podcast, "We were so drunk by the time that came around." The show that built must-see TV signed off by breaking it, live and inebriated, on the network that had protected it from cancellation. But the quiet ending itself contained a tribute almost no one recognized, including the final gesture of the final shot. Number 1. Sam walks back into the bar alone, straightens a small picture on the wall, and disappears down the hallway. It is 3 seconds of screen time. It is also the most emotionally loaded moment in the series. James Burrows deliberately blocked Danson to stop at the Geronimo photo and straighten it, a private goodbye to Nick Colasanto, whose photo had been on that wall since season 4. Danson has said, "On my way back out of the bar, I stop and straighten the photo so that Nikki was represented right to the end." The finale was rewritten by Glenn and Les Charles after NBC judged the original draft too rushed. NBC tripled the running time. The main shoot, on stage 25, ran from 7:20 p.m. to 2:15 a.m. on March 31st, 1993. The final bar scene was filmed separately on April 7th to work around Shelley Long's CBS schedule for another production. Approximately 80 million viewers watched the Nielsen-measured broadcast, second only to the MAS*H finale. The silhouetted figures at the door in the final scene included Brandon Tartikoff, Warren Littlefield, Grant Tinker, and cartoonist Gary Trudeau. The show's most watched moment is a bartender saying goodbye to a dead coach. The entire emotional history of the series, the casting pivots, the hidden lines on the scenery, the grief tucked behind a painting, compressed into one quiet gesture in an empty bar. That gesture was not in the script. Burrows put it there on purpose. Cheers began as the lowest-rated show on American television in 1982 and ended as the cultural template for every ensemble sitcom that followed, because one network president ignored the numbers and one cast refused to play it safe. The show survived a sport change, a dying coach with lines hidden across the scenery, a secret departure filmed in 3 versions, a star on probation, and a hairpiece that lasted 11 seasons. Nearly every choice that defined the show was an accident, a compromise, or a tribute, and that is why it still holds. If this video surprised you, drop your favorite fact in the comments, like, subscribe, and share this with someone who loves this movie as much as you do. And as always, where everybody knows your name, we'll see you next time.